Hey everyone, Malleo here. Today I'd like to discuss a relatively new trick that was shown off in my previous any% task for Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. Previously I made a video discussing a different new trick that I also got to include in the task called the Gloomtail Warp. It's a pretty exciting trick, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already. This time, however, I want to discuss the Chapter 7 elevator skip. In my most recent video about using calculus to go fast in TTYD, I joked about having an exam for some of the complicated math involved in tasking. However, today I've decided to cancel an upcoming quiz, specifically the X0 Fortress quiz. So today, I'm going to show you how through the use of elevator skip, we can skip a portion of the X0 Fortress, including the normally mandatory quiz. Before we get started, I really want to thank my friend The Sneaky Spy for making a brand new intro and outro for me. I think it turned out amazing and I couldn't be happier, so be sure to check him out on Twitter and YouTube, and keep him in mind if you ever want something like this done. With that, let's get on to the elevator skip. To begin, let's first discuss the normal route you take in the X0 Fortress. After entering the fortress through the teleporter, we first head to the right and read the red note in this room. Upon entering the fortress through the teleporter, the game is not correctly set to a Chapter 7 state. This is easily observable if you walk near the elevators, as you won't be able to interact with them. Reading this note causes the game to correctly advance to a mid-Chapter 7 state, which will allow us to use the elevators, and additionally, it'll spawn a card key in Grotus's office, though the other two will stay spawned even if you're outside of a Chapter 7 state. In order to actually reach the boss for Chapter 7, you need to collect all 3 of the card keys, so after reading the red note, we head to Grotus's room and grab the first card key. After heading back to the main hallway, we still need to grab the card key on the opposite end of the hallway, but we additionally will need to head downward to another sub-level of the fortress. In order to do that though, we have to grab an elevator key in order to enable the deepest elevator. To get that key, we have to head up 1 level and complete the Thwomp quiz. Just keep in mind that the process of using the elevator to go up, taking the quiz, and coming back down takes just over a minute and a half. From here, we go all the way to the left end of the hallway to collect the second card key. Afterwards, we can take the elevator down 1 level, collect the card key to the left, and make our way right towards the final room of the chapter. So if we were to try and skip the quiz, then we face the issue of not being able to take the elevator down a sub-level. Thanks to elevator skip, as the name implies, we can make it down a sub-level without having to actually use the elevator. The first ever method for this trick was found by Soric, but ultimately it's not faster than doing the quiz normally. Then Soric improved the method by implementing a new method of text storage using the Ultra Boots. Because of this improvement, this strategy is now used in the All Crystal Stars speedrun, a category in which you have to collect all 7 crystal stars. But for the any% task, we can do even better. And it can get pretty complicated, so I'm gonna break everything down chronologically. First I want to explain the actual end goal, how we can actually skip the elevator. Ultimately, we want to perform a Yoshi teleport. This is also used in Palace Skip to get underneath the floor of the room. A Yoshi teleport is performed by pushing Yoshi out of bounds, causing him to fall, and then closing out of Goombella's dialogue text box to reset a partner flag, and then use Yoshi as the text box is closing. As you'll see in a bit, there are a couple of complications that arise if we try to set up this teleport as soon as we possibly can. First, we need to get text storage, which will result in Goombella's dialogue appearing while we can still walk around. And in order to set up text storage, we first need to get an item drop. Luckily, we can get into the Elite X0 encounter right after leaving Grotus's room. Once we get the item drop, we're immediately greeted with a problem. In order to get text storage, we need to keep Goombella off screen, use her right before touching an item, and then get into an encounter while Mario can't move. And immediately we have an issue. The closest enemy on this floor after the Elite X0s are defeated is a Z-Yux, which is past the leftmost elevator. If we try to get text storage where the item is normally dropped, Mario won't be able to move around and will be forced to give up on getting text storage. So we need to find a way to quickly bring the item over to the left in order to be able to get hit by the Z-Yux. Luckily, we can use Koops to alleviate the situation. If you use Koops to pick up an item such that he grabs the item on his way back towards Mario, then you can actually use the elevator panel to avoid picking up the item. Attempting to activate the elevator will cause Koops to drop the item after he stops moving. Thus, the item is now sufficiently far enough left for us to be in range of the Zeux's attack when we try to get tech storage. We then get Goombella far enough to the right such that when we activate her, there's a 1-frame window for us to grab the item before she starts talking. Then we can get hit by the Zeux and bring the text box into battle. Once we leave the battle, we're free to move around with Goombella's text box still active. Now that we have tech storage, we can swap to Yoshi, push him out of bounds by the elevator, let him fall for a bit, and then close Goombella's text box and activate Yoshi. As I mentioned, closing Goombella's dialogue will cause some flags to be reset, ultimately allowing us to use Yoshi while he's midair. Doing so causes Malleo to warp to the same height as Yoshi, resulting in us falling beneath the floor. Thus, we can simply walk left towards the third and final card key, and then make our way towards the boss fight. Since we now skip the last elevator, the overall route for the fortress is slightly different. When we first teleport into the fortress, we go all the way to the left to grab the first card key. We grab this key first because, since we no longer take the elevator up, there's no other time that we'll be as far to the left as we are when we enter the fortress. Then we read the red note, grab the card key in Grotus's room, perform elevator skip, and then grab the last card key below. Overall, this trick ends up saving around a minute or so due to skipping the elevator ride up and down, as well as the Chapter 7 Thwomp quiz. You may additionally be wondering what happens after Chapter 7 when we have to ride the elevator back up to get out of the fortress. Luckily, the elevator becomes unlocked after the boss fight, so we don't have to worry about getting back to Ropeport. I know this was a bit of a shorter video, but this is definitely a trick I wanted to make a video on, so I hope you found it interesting. Thanks again to the Sneaky Spy for my intro and outro. Thanks to Soric for developing the first two methods, and thanks to SolidifiedGaming and Vynneve for coming up with the strategies used for the version I explained today. And lastly, thanks for watching.